Okay, so I thought it was interesting that because I always think about Africa and other developing world or countries and them having HIV/AIDS, and I thought it was interesting how the U.S. had, I mean, not as much HIV, but like we still have it, like it's still prevalent in here.
Especially in San Francisco.
Apparently,
Really?
Sorry. Well, yeah.
that's what I said.
There's
Yeah.
a high gay population here. Sorry, that's probably so bad to say, but anyways, go on.
You get haters on YouTube.
That's all right.
Um, what did he say the cause was? It wasn't poverty.
One of the things I found interesting was a lot of people thought that it might be war that was causing the high rate of HIV, especially in Africa. But then he showed that there were two countries, one of them was Zambia, who are actually relatively peaceful, that don't have any war going on, and they still had a pretty high thing. So yeah, it is a problem with people like raping and pillaging and spreading the disease. But in the case of that particular country and one other, they still had a pretty high rate, but they didn't have any wars going on. And then he actually like split them, which I thought was interesting, and showed the different wealth percentiles of the people, and it showed that the richest people had the highest
Had it, yeah.
level of AIDS. And so I don't really understand why. Maybe you guys have some ideas as to why that would be, why the richer people would have more than the poor people?
Well, what hit me the most, what he said when he said that the older men tend to have sex with younger women
That's true.
and multiple partners. So maybe, like, how old men have money, so then they can just pay someone to have sex with them, and obviously it's not going to be like safe sex or anything. So, well, it sucks for the young women because they're the one who's going to suffer a ton.
That's true. Yeah.
So.
Something he talked about, which I thought was a unique perspective to the HIV pandemic, is that those who expose themselves more sexually have a higher chance of getting the disease. So I think he talked about vodka, how this, I think it was like Sweden, they drink the vodka, they go out, have a fling, drink more vodka, and it's just a cycle. And that it's obviously not good, it's morally wrong, but it also affects the physical attributes of the body. In regards to HIV, it just increases the chances. So I think that's what's happening in Africa, is you just have people getting in these sexual relationships more frequently than a lot of other countries.
Well, I think you said something interesting too about it's morally wrong. Perhaps in those countries it isn't seen as morally wrong to have multiple partners, to go out and party. We live in a specialized community here where that is seen as morally wrong. But for those countries that may not be an issue, so it's not really a surprise that the rates can be higher there depending on how they feel about intimacy and sexual relations. So that could be a factor as well. So that's what I think he meant about how there's lots of different small factors that can kind of contribute to the higher rates. It's not just one thing like lack of condoms or raping or whatever, but it's a whole confluence of things that can affect it.
Perhaps it's also the religious values down in Africa. I don't know what those comprise of. I don't know if Christianity is very large there. Maybe there's voodoo, maybe there's who knows what, maybe just tribal rituals, and maybe they don't teach chastity or pure or sexual purity.
Yeah.
Maybe it's fine for them. So
Well,
that
and
could
you
also
notice
contribute.
too, he said that in most of the Middle Eastern countries there is no HIV, or it's very, very small, and they have very extremely strict moral values that prohibit those kinds of activities. So that's not a surprise to me at all, you know?
What they need is the gospel
Yes.
and the law of chastity.
Yes.
Missionary opportunity.
Yeah, having the missionaries will decrease your country's rate of AIDS. I don't know if that would work very well in certain instances. I did think that he was very invested in his topic. I thought that was really cool. His enthusiasm was kind of contagious. I don't know why he was using that big metal dowel instead of a laser pointer, but I think it's important. I think it's important for us to be enthusiastic about this issue. But what kind of, aside from having missionaries teach the law of chastity, what kind of remedies can you guys think of that would help slow the progression of AIDS?
I think just education is the primary source of knowledge, and if you can educate, not necessarily using fear tactics, but to help people understand the physical consequences of engaging in sexual relationships without proper equipment per se. So I think that would definitely be one of the best motives is
Just
education.
rain condoms down on the after
There you
you're
go.
playing.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
And teach them how to use it.
There you go. So that's something that they can do.
That's true. How would we do that education though? Like what's a good way to teach people out in the middle of nowhere what AIDS is going to do to them? You guys have any ideas?
I think something you could implement is take people who have it and to help them or to show them how to give seminars on the do's and don'ts. Say, this is what I have. Please don't get this. This is the consequences. Be careful. Be cautious.
Kind of like those commercials, like with the cigarettes and the lady.
You can
Yeah.
talk, yeah.
Yeah, those are gross.
Those are horrible.
So, all right. Well, that's how we feel about AIDS.